Okay, so today we are still looking at those ways to make decisions in environments that you're not used to, you don't have the intuition for. And previously we've looked at how we can look for effects rather than being attached to actions while making more powerful decisions. And looking at identifying our underlying beliefs about the way things have to be and therefore why we have to do things a certain way, to think outside the box on different ways of doing things, how to make decisions that are going to be more powerful rather than just replacing what we have to get by. So have a look at the previous two videos if you haven't already on those. Today we're going to be looking at how can you be using this stuff with others. So there's two really key ways to use this. One is deciding with somebody else. So it's probably a nice way of saying you're having an argument over something and you need to come to a decision. It might be an amicable argument where you're both discussing it to move forward. Hopefully that's what it is. It might be a not so friendly argument. But either way, we're going to have a look at that. And also when you're trying to decide for others. So that's more likely to be deciding for a group of others. Let's say you've got your user base and they're requesting certain things, and rather than just giving the features they are requesting, looking back at what are they trying to get out of those features, and identifying more valuable functionality or things that you can give people to get even more than what they asked for in the first place, and even more value out of your software. All right, so deciding with them. That in most cases you're going to use what we looked at in the effects video. So you're going to be looking at the effects of their actions and the effects of your actions. So when I say this, in 90% of cases, arguments that stall because people are attached to the actions or the mechanisms or how it's being done now or how it should be done now. So you'll probably find yourself going backwards and forwards. Oh, we should do this first. We should do that. We should add more functionality, or we should make the functionality we have run more smoothly, or have better UX, something like this. So most often people are going to be arguing over the things to do rather than the outcomes they want. So the step is exactly that. Like we did in the previous video, you take the action and you think, oh, what's the effect I want from this action? They do the same on their side. They talk about their action and they talk about what the effect they want from their action is. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to draw the discussion away from being an argument over actions into a discussion about how do we get both of these effects. It might be obvious once you hear the effects and say, oh, I can change what I'm doing to be this other thing. It won't conflict with your thing, but I'll still get my effect and it won't compromise yours. One of you might come up with a totally different third option and go, oh, if that's what we're after, shouldn't we just be doing this and we'll get both 2 for 1? Great. What it does is it focuses the conversation on the benefits rather than arguing over the mechanisms you have. Now, of course, people can get very attached to the mechanisms, especially if they've been doing them for a while or they were their idea in the first place. So they can get tricky, but you do need to remind yourselves that you're here to try and get the best outcome, and focusing on the effects gets you both on the same side of the table. So let's say an example of that, using the simple complex one I was talking about before. You might have your software that let's say it's business software, and managers want to be able to get reports out of it. Managers might not be the primary user base. It could be CRM software, it could be booking software, it could be whatever. But managers want to be able to get some reports out of that. Now you might say, all right, so on my side, I'm thinking we should make this really simple. Managers aren't going to go into the software for anything else. So when they go in, they want to see reports. They want to have a few basic settings, and they can fire out a report themselves, or they can download a PDF, whatever it is. However, you might be sitting there saying, well, no, that's rubbish. If they want reports, they're going to need to be more complex. They're going to have all sorts of different requirements. They're going to want this in this case and this in that case. So we really need to build a more complex configurator for them. Now you might say, well, why not just do both? Well, generally in these cases, it's not the fact that you can't do both, it's that we've got all sorts of pressures on us on resourcing and timeframes and everything. And while doing these, you're not working on something else. So is it worth the trade-off? So you might say, no, it is in this case. We really need to spend the time to make it more complex, because those managers that do want that extra detail, it's going to be highly valuable to them. And they might tend to be people who have more technical staff and who can configure the reports for them, save them as standard ones, and they can just download them from there. In which case, if you look at that and you say, well, all right, so your mechanism you're going for is a more complex configurator, but if you're saying the effect you want is detailed reports that could be generated by more technical staff and given to the managers, then we could easily add a functionality to just give them data dumps. They can put it into Power BI, they can put it into Excel, whatever the hell they want to run on it, and build whatever they like. So let's have the simple system for those who just want something simple. They can get in, maybe they can get it on their phone even, get the report right there. And if they want anything more complex and they're going to send it to technical staff to manage, boom, just do a data dump and they can do whatever they want with that. So the whole point in this is it structures the conversation in a far more useful way. You're going to move forward much faster with the conversation. You're going to have more valuable conversation about what are we actually doing, what are we trying to achieve here. So the second side of this is deciding on behalf of others. So in most cases, this is going to be if you're looking at building something in functionality. Now, obviously, you want to include customers as much as you can, but users often suffer from a case of you don't know what you don't know, especially if they're not tech people. They don't really know what's possible, what's easy to use and what's hard to use. I certainly know I've talked to devs about things and been highly amused when, if we had a red button there that did X, Y, Z, how long would that take? A few hours? Oh, cool. And if we had a blue switch here that did ABC, how long would that take? Oh, shit. Oh, I have to look into it, but no, that'll be a big one, a couple of weeks. and to somebody who hasn't developed either of those things, it's very interesting how different they can be. So the end users will often say, I want this functionality. They won't say, I want this benefit from the software, I want this effect. They'll focus on, they think they've solved it with something, with some functionality. I need an email that automatically goes out to, my customers if I push this button. And I need it to be customized, so I need these templates. I need templates to be able to be in there. Now you as on the other end of it, developing the product, you might say, well, geez, every time we get into meddling with templates and emails, they just want more and more and more, and it's a never-ending cycle. So you go back to them and say, well, what do you listen to them? What do they actually want? What is their problem that they're trying to solve? It might be that they just want to add a personalized message to their email outs so they don't feel like their email outs out of the system. All right, well, a bit like the data dump thing, in that case, you could add the option to email out a system and beside it one of those little share buttons. There you go, you can share, it goes to their email client instead, they can do whatever they want there and ping it off. I'm not saying that is the answer in your case, but this is the point, is if you want the detail of this, go back to the one video ago where we're talking about the beliefs and assumptions, making more powerful solutions. But you want to do that. You want to be thinking, in order for them to get whatever they want, they believe they need this functionality. Now, why do they think they need that? And what you want to do is look at all the assumptions they're making as to why they do that. And you might not even need to challenge those assumptions yourself. They might just be obvious that they're easy to solve for you. Or they might be assumptions that a whole industry holds, and challenging those is a lot harder. But that's where we get these breakthrough solutions. I mean, if you look at any sort of product or anything that's come out that's really changed the market, it only does that because of these assumptions being challenged. It's the Henry Ford quote about, if I asked the customers what they wanted, they would have given me a faster horse. It's the way Apple, whether you like them or not, at least in the very early days of the iPad and the iPhone, they literally changed the way the world deals with computers because of challenging the assumptions about how people should be using computers. So that's what it is. You want to be looking at why do we believe that it has to be this way, and what would it look like if it didn't have to be this way. So this is the same as I mentioned in the previous video, but this time you're doing it on behalf of others. So it is harder. You want to build up a bit of fluency doing this on your own situations first, and then come back to the customer situations and figure it out for them. Right, so I hope these series of videos have been useful. I'll do one more tomorrow about how you might be able to get your hands on some of these tools and do a little bit of training in this. But yeah, hopefully this is helping you working from home, making better decisions outside of an environment, or for any future environment where you're in a situation you've not had a lot of experience in, and so you need to make sure that you're actually making good decisions from the foundations rather than decisions based on your experience in different situations that aren't necessarily relevant here. It might be all right to get by, but they're not necessarily the best decisions. So, as I say, hopefully this has all helped.